Want the reward? Do the damn work. Challenge yourself. Inspire change. Choice, not luck. Hey everybody, Todd Crandell. I am your host from Ignite Euphoria, and I have an awesome podcast in store today with one Randall Dombey. How are you, sir?
Good. How you doing today?
I'm good. We were talking just before we started this today. I haven't done one of these since July, and we're now in November. And the first thing that comes to my mind is you came up and asked me to do this last Saturday. We were out at Mason's hockey game.
Yep.
So tell everybody, let's start with that. Why did you ask me to come on the show?
Yeah. I just thought that it would be a great concept. I've had just hit a milestone in my sobriety, which is 5 years, which is pretty crazy, to me. And I came through this amazing lifestyle. And, I just thought, I think it's a good time, maybe just to come back, talk a little bit about maybe some of the ups, downs, what sobriety brings, in the midst of 5 years. So
I love it. So you have over 5 years, and how old were you when I first started seeing you?
I was probably 24, 25, something like that.
And you're how old now?
30.
Well, you're talking here. What about back in the office? I'm going back when you first came in.
Back in your old office?
Yeah.
It was probably maybe 22.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe 22.
So the reason I'm bringing that up is, and it goes back to you having, I call it you having the courage to come up and talk to me like that. Not that you wouldn't come up and talk to me, but
right.
Saying, hey, I want to go on the podcast. That to me resonated because it shows self-esteem.
Yeah.
There's a lot of pride in there. When I was out at Basil, shameless plug for where you're an awesome chef out there right now. But when you came up and told me, hey, I've got 5 years and stuff, the first thing I thought of was like, I've known you for a long time.
Right.
And to see you now walking and living and exuding self-esteem is a beautiful thing, Randall.
Yeah, and I think, some of the podcasts that you've done previously, it'd just be a cool concept to have someone that had maybe just, not saying diminishing anyone's time or nothing like that, but, 5 years is a milestone, and a lot can happen. So,
well, let's start with that, because I have a bunch of questions for you. But feeding off of that, you are the first person who has gone through here, who I'm interviewing, who has that amount of time, and that says something. So normally when people get a year, and I'll say, hey, do you want to do a podcast? A year seems to be, and it is, a year's a big milestone, but definitely. I've never done somebody that has 5. So how about we start with this? What have you learned from years, 1 to 5 that is going to make this different and maybe more effective for the listener than somebody that, quote, just has 1? And again, I'm not minimizing the 1 year, but what can you add to that?
I think, at least for me, time just never has been like, I've never really kept track of time. I always kind of live it day by day. And, I think 1 year is an incredible accomplishment. But I think that's just kind of the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot to learn, and there's even 5 years. I'm learning stuff every day about myself, mentally, physically, emotionally, all the stuff we talk about at Racing for Recovery. When I first came in, I wasn't digging deep, digging deep into my soul and digging deep to fix myself mentally and emotionally. I was trying to fix myself on a surface level, and I think that's, for me, doesn't always work out the best.
Powerful statement. So when you said you were trying to, quote, fix yourself on the surface level, what changed and when did it change where you're like, hey, if I really want to get something out of being at Racing for Recovery, I have to do such and such. What was that like?
So it took me, and this is just for me, it started with exercise, to be honest. And, a lot of people know that, I exercise a lot. But man, that really helped me mentally kind of clear things up, kind of give me my confidence, give me my self-esteem, give me all these things that led me to be able to work on my, mental aspect of my lifestyle. I just thought, like any other treatment facility, I go in, I do my worksheets, very surface level. Okay, fix the problem. I'll go back to living my lifestyle. But I realized once coming to Racing for Recovery, it was more than that. And that first step I took was exercise. So
what were you doing exercising wise? I remember you being in the gym a lot, but that has evolved.
Yeah.
Right? Talk about that.
I think having peers, pushing me, peers keeping me accountable, helped me get into the gym. I wasn't confident. I wasn't a lot of different things. I had no self-esteem, and first coming in, I kind of glossed over those things, like that really didn't matter, It was just fixing the problem, which I thought the problem was drugs and alcohol. But it was a lot more than that, obviously.
Yes. So I didn't completely destroy my brain on drugs. I can remember what I was going to ask you. But moving forward, so when you first came in, it was a lot of weights.
Yeah.
And then I've watched you avid softball now.
Right.
Now you're getting into hot room. And I even said to you the other day when we were talking, I saw a picture of you and your body is like transformed.
Yeah.
But it's matching how you're speaking, how you're feeling, and how you're living.
You have to get uncomfortable. For me, I have to get uncomfortable because that's where growth happens. We all hear that saying, if you want growth, you have to be uncomfortable. Lifting weights was always just something I love to do. Going to the hot room is completely out of my comfort zone. It's something I can't stand. I hate it. I hate cardio. I hate running. But once I start doing it, I start liking it a little bit more and more, So it's kind of this tug of war. But I realized if I want to keep growing, I have to do the things I don't like to do.
So, and people may or may not know that my daughter Skylar runs hot room.
Yeah.
We call her the drill sergeant, right? I mean, that class is tough.
Oh yeah.
And what I want to ask you about that, when you're talking about it being difficult, it is difficult. It's a different thing than lifting weights.
Yeah.
But are you noticing? And I can use part of our podcast, Ignite Euphoria. Let's use the word euphoria. Are you getting a different form and feeling of euphoria versus weightlifting, and what's that like?
Definitely. Man, I think just being able to slow my breath down, be able to breathe, to help ease my mind, throughout the day. I think it helps, like I said before, build confidence in myself that I can get through stuff, adversity, which translates into all aspects of my life. Employment, relationships, whatever I want to do.
Okay, so you mentioned adversity. What have you overcome that you mentioned that word and it, talking about, hot room and breath work helping
Yeah.
you to overcome that. Give us some examples of where you've overcome adversity.
Man, there's been a lot of adversity through, the past 5 years. There's so many moments that I can think of. There's been adversity even with weightlifting in the gym, where it's like, I take a couple of days off and I get in that mindset of, I don't want to do this, I don't need to do this anymore, right? And I think that's a normal way of thinking, but I soon realized that why I do it, why I go to the gym, why I exercise, and I remember a couple times where you said it's like, you don't want to run in the morning. There's times where you see your shoes, you're like, I don't want to go out and run, but I have to do it, and it's that mental aspect. And when you get through it and you do it, you feel great about yourself.
You never feel badly for doing it.
No.
Never.
Ever.
I had one of those things again today. I can still do some things physically, but right. I noticed it's not as fluid as it used to be, right? So I ran Thursday, so I ran Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday this week. So I got up today and your mind starts telling you, I'm tired, I can take a day off.
I don't need to do this anymore.
I don't need to do it, right? But then it always comes back to, how do you want to feel? And I'm like, I have 4 podcasts to do today.
Right.
I want to be my best to be active in these interviews. Go out and ran.
Right.
Beautiful outside. Saw some other people out doing it. Sun shining. And that's I think a lot of what separates the doers in sobriety and those that don't.
And for me, it's like, I'm a person that needs exercise. I need it. So it makes me feel good. I can be motivated in the day. When I don't exercise, I'm just not. I want to just sit on the couch, eat a bunch of junk food, watch a couple movies. If I'm exercising, I feel good about myself. I eat better. My relationships obviously are better. I'm a better employee. All those things. It's like full circle.
Well, I can keep asking you stuff, but I'm like, I'm kind of bouncing off of what you're saying. So go back to during your addiction, and when you weren't exercising, and it was all self-destruction. Talk a little about the comparison of the mindset now versus then.
Man, I was a very miserable person. I tried to, obviously get my dopamine, I think of that word, dopamine. My dopamine receptors were very at a certain level. And when I didn't reach that level, I was miserable, and I didn't find enjoyment in anything. There were times where I would go home and I would sit and try to watch TV and I was just so miserable and I was unhappy. Entertainment was miserable to me, and trying to find a different way to get that dopamine in a healthy, positive way has changed my life.
So this is where I know that your words are really going to resonate with somebody. So now think back to when we first met, 8, 9, possibly even 10 years ago. It's been a long time. I had that little office on Monroe Street in Sylvania. I'm just getting into this. You're coming in, and we've talked a little bit about this before, but so looking back at your mindset then, I in Racing for Recovery basically have been saying the same thing.
Right.
So what is it then that you finally looked and said, I got to do some of this or I'm not going to get anything out of it?
Right.
Tell people what that was like.
So I remember you drawing the stick figure, the guy in the middle. This is you. and you circled that stick figure and then branched off to all these different aspects. And at the time, it was like, I didn't really see it. I didn't really, it's kind of like a haze. Like, I didn't see the vision that you were seeing. And once I fully started to see and understand, and it took me, maybe one or two, trying one or two of those aspects, it started to become a little bit more clear on how, wow, I'm starting to finally understand what he's talking about. I'm starting to see like all these aspects are making me this person.
Was it because, and I don't know this, but I think you had tried different help things.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you come in and we're meeting one-on-one like this. You're coming to some of our support group meetings, and now you're coming out of the haze. Are you? What I want to ask you, like, are you grateful of that? Are you resistant to that? What's that change like?
I think now I'm very grateful for it. I'm very grateful for everything that I've been through, good and bad. It's made me a better person. It's made me learn about myself. I think it takes time, to really find what you like to do, and I was fortunate enough to find that. I don't know. I think, like I said in the beginning, I didn't have self-esteem or confidence in myself to really say, yeah, I can go do that. I can try some of these, working on my emotional self, or, always thought, oh, you're a man, you should deal with it,
Wow.
You should be able to deal with your emotions. You should be able to deal with, everything, My dad is very, like, doesn't deal with his emotions very well. He stuffs them down. And I thought that is the way I was supposed to act, Come to find out, nothing wrong with that, but I found out that's not the way I'm supposed to act.
This is the difference between a year of sobriety and 5.
Yeah.
That awareness. So, and we're not bashing your dad, you're understanding with empathy.
Yes.
Do you think being around that environment, that played a role in some of the emotional things you were going through, that drugs were a coping mechanism then?
Yeah, I definitely think that, it definitely led to drugs being a coping mechanism. I don't want to say it was his fault because I made the choice. Mm-hmm. I know he was doing the best that he could, and I dearly, love my dad, I have to realize the childhood he went through, though, as well. Maybe his childhood wasn't the greatest, and this is the only way he knew how to act.
What did you learn from your dad that's good?
I learned my dad is big in lifting weights, and that's like something he was always trying me to do, like get me to do, and then I just like never stuck with it, and it truly had me realize like he was trying to get me to do this all along.
Right.
But I just never listened. Yeah. So I think that's like one thing that's like hits me sometimes. Is like, yeah, I could have been doing this a long time ago to make me feel good about myself.
What's the relationship like that you have with him now?
It's great. I mean, I see him every once in a while. Gonna go over there for Thanksgiving. We talk, sports, all that good stuff. He's happy for me, He's, and I shit. It hit me, he's proud of me. And he said that to me, and it Yeah, it fucked me up.
Wow.
It really, it hit home, when he said that. And I know he wanted to say it, but when he finally did, I was like, damn.
Wow.
It kind of just like...
Was it relief that you had hearing that? Was it gratitude? What was that?
There was a lot of emotions, I don't know. I think I've always wanted to hear that. It was kind of relieving, and I don't know. It just kind of, it threw me off, a little bit. And, but I think it's because of all the hard work I've been putting in, and I don't know.
Well, this goes back to when we started talking about self-esteem. Mm-hmm. And you just said it right there. You earned this. He didn't just tell you that based on you still doing drugs.
Right.
He told you that based on what he's seen you do for a number of years.
Right.
And you earned that.
Right.
Because on the other side, and we can talk about your awesome mom, she was the loving, kind support rock there the whole time.
Yeah.
Right? So I know you were getting, both sides of this. And if you can look at it with gratitude, it's like, well, I got some toughness from my dad and I got some care from my mom.
Right.
But the bottom line is you have taken both and used them productively to get to where you are.
Yeah. And, I don't know. I'm just grateful for where I'm at today, to at least have my parents there to support me, because I know a lot of people might not have both their parents or whatever situation. I'm just very grateful for the work that I put in to still have a healthy relationship with them.
Well, we talked about your dad, so you can't leave your mom out in this,
definitely.
Right? What was she, talk about her role during your addiction, and then get into how she's been there in sobriety.
My mom was I would say an enabler. She has definitely enabled me to use drugs, stayed in her house, always gave me whatever I wanted, and that could have been my manipulation or whatever we're going to call it. But, because I think I definitely had some of the blame on that as well. But I think that, I don't know, there was nights where she was probably scared, couldn't sleep, wondering about that next phone call. And, she's always been there for me. She's always supported me through my recovery, through my addiction, and has always wanted what's best for me.
How does it feel to not know that your choices are worrying her, but yet they are enhancing her, bringing her relief, if you will?
I think it's finally let her be able to live her life, and that's I don't know. She was always worried about her kids, and now she can finally just go live.
She's doing that.
Yeah, she's just doing it.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think that's what it's about, and I'm so grateful to have a mother that's always been there, and I know I can call on her whenever any hard times. My relationship with her has been rocky, definitely, but I think through sobriety it's gotten 100 times better, where I can be open with her, honest with her, tell her how I feel. Whatever situation I'm going through, I can communicate that with her, and she'll be there to listen. So
we've been talking it's almost been a half hour already. I can keep asking you stuff, but I want to give you the chance. You probably have a lot on your mind that you want to say, so Is there something you want to start talking about that then I can build off of?
Yeah, you kind of put me on the spot. I'm not really sure. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not really sure.
All right, well, I'll do my job then because just have a ton of stuff. So there's a couple things. I remember, and as soon as I start talking about this, you're going to know what I'm talking about. But everybody in recovery, I don't even like using that term, but everybody who's turning their life around and is doing well, which you were at this point, gets hit with, well, it's in our Cleveland book, the 4 big ideas. And number 3 is we're not immune to life's hardships. And I remember that one critical moment where you're on Monroe Street, and I was driving or whatever, and you had your friend or whatever, and you were about to make that decision. I want you to convey with passion what that felt like at that moment where you're being put in the position of, I can do this crap again, or what do I need to do not to do it, and how that literally, in my view, Randall, that to me was the turning point in everything that you have now.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking of a kid who's can watch this right now and hear you describe that can make the right decision.
Yeah, I think, man, for me, it was just an eye-opening experience. I don't think, it just really was an eye-opening experience to really realize what I was doing.
Tell people what was happening and what
So pretty much hanging out with my friends, I was driving home, making the decision to if I wanted to go use drugs or not. And I was driving home and all of a sudden, like I'm just in traffic and I hear, someone yell my name. And I look over and it was Todd and Madison in the front seat. And I was in and out of here a little bit, like I said before, working on very surface level things, and didn't really work out for me. But so I look over, and it's you, and you guys were yelling, and you asked me if I was okay in the middle of traffic, and I think you did ask me to come in maybe back to Racing for Recovery, and I drove off, and I was thinking like, wow, that just doesn't happen out of something's going on, something is trying to tell me something, and it was just eye-opening, and it was like, what are you doing, right? What am I really doing here? And I don't know, it just really made me think. And sooner or later, I then came back to Racing for Recovery.
I had forgotten the minute details that you just talked about right there. But there's a couple of key points in there, right? I was living, if Madison was in the car with me, I assume I was living this way for quite some time, which is an example. You mentioned you were about to call somebody. So again, we're talking about non-proper peers, a non-productive environment that leads to unhealthy thoughts.
Right.
And then you can call it, look, man, you can call that God, spirituality, whatever word you want to put in there, just two people living a certain way. But when you see the message in there, it gives us, and we're a big believer in choice.
Yeah.
And right there it is. That is a cognizant choice that you made not to do that negative thing.
Yeah. And, if that wouldn't have happened, I hate to even think like that, but I don't know where I could be today. So I'm just so thankful to be in this position that I'm in and living the life I have. Man, it's incredible. But I do want to talk about, there's still so much work that I have. Like, awesome. Even having 5 years, there's still so much work that I'm still unraveling. of like, man, it's every day it's a constant battle, you know, mentally, handling emotions, you know, and I don't know. I don't know why I always think this, but it's like, oh, as soon as I hit like a certain amount of time, like everything will be all right.
Nope.
After 1 year, my emotions and they'll all be sorted out, and it's not like that. And which is sometimes like, I don't know, it's kind of like upsetting, but there's a point where it's like, man, at least I can put in the work today to make things better, you know? I don't want anything handed to me, you know? I want to work for everything that I have.
Dude, talking to you like this is clearly another example of the difference of time. Not about, look at me, I have a certain amount of time, but what I'm overcoming in the time, what I've learned in the time, right? And that is another example of that. Think how early on, a lot of times they'll either demand it or they put these, expectations on it, and it can be catastrophic,
right?
As opposed to accepting it for what it is and doing something productive with it.
Man, and expectations is another thing.
Yeah.
Just like you said, just so many different aspects that I had to really realize and work on, to kind of, I don't know, make myself live more in reality. Okay. And it's like, okay, I'm here. Everything's fine. I'm happy today. That's it. Like, as long as I'm happy, everything else is fine.
That's right. You worked here for a period of time, and I'm interested in, because look, I've heard people and they're 2 weeks sober and detox are talking about being counselors and stuff, right?
Right.
And then there's people who, like yourself, who come through Racing for Recovery, they do great, and they want to work here, and they do.
Right.
Again, with your level of where you've been in recovery, you worked here, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you chose to go in another direction with that. So I'd like to know, like, maybe your mindset of, oh, this is going to help me find peace, and then you find out, well, maybe this isn't the field I wanted to get into.
Right.
What was that experience like?
Man, it's just like everything, listening to yourself. Listen to how you feel, what makes you feel good, doing anything physically. If that's reading, writing, if that makes you feel good, go for it. Do it if it's helpful. I've always enjoyed helping people. That's always been something that I'm passionate about. But it takes time before you can actually, you need to learn about yourself, before truly being able to help anybody else.
When you were working here, what were some of the great things that you saw or felt or did?
I think the great things were, I would say, seeing the passion in people, finding something that they enjoy and just like going for it. And once you see that kind of gleam in someone's eye where they're like, man, this is what I love to do, and they just go for it and it works out, it's so rewarding. Because I know for myself, it's probably the same way for that person that helped me start working out for the first time. And there's people even to this day that probably don't even know they helped me like push myself physically. And I don't know, I just think it's really rewarding.
What did we really don't give advice here, but like, what would you? We've just hired a couple newer success stories. You know, close to a year and a half of sobriety. Each of them came
Right.
through Racing for Recovery.
Right.
What would you say to them about working here that could be helpful to them?
I would say, not trying to give advice,
Right.
but
However,
you know, listening and being patient are two big things.
Yeah.
You know, two very key words to working a field like this.
it's different coming in for help in this field
Yeah.
versus working it. Well, I don't think we work. We're privileged to do this,
Right.
but being in this in service, they're two totally different things.
Right.
And I think that's something that people don't really understand. You know, it's like winning the lottery, but understanding you got to control your spending.
Yeah.
And people are like,
Definitely.
well, what do you mean? The money's going to be there forever. And it's
Right.
like, well, why are you broke 2 years later? I mean, it's
Right.
different than what a lot of people think. That's been interesting for me to watch because I didn't know, because when we got out here, we just started and let it rip, right? But I would hear people that say, this is different than I thought now that I'm working here. And I'm like, it is.
It is.
Yeah. What are you doing now? What's going on work-wise?
So I am working at Basil Pizza Wine Bar. I'm a chef there. So I kind of just cook food, you know, help out my coworkers, you know, put out a great product. And we have a lot of different options. We offer vegan options and stuff like that,
Yeah.
which is awesome. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean,
And you came from that background too, even
Yeah.
during the not so good years.
Yes.
So what's it like to be back in that with a clear head?
it's different. The environment that I work in is a fast-paced environment. But everybody is super supportive, you know, and you know, especially on my background, I let people, you know, I let them know, and they're very supportive with that. And I find that there's a lot of people that have gone through the same thing.
There's
You know,
another coworker who's gone through this, who works out there.
Oh yeah,
I'm sure. Well, we're not going to say that.
we'll
on,
leave that
you know.
person unnamed.
Yeah,
Right?
but I remember when I was in there last, and this person
Yeah.
came up and gave me their resume stuff of how good they're doing,
Yeah.
and talked about being here and stuff, and it's like it's great.
Yeah,
You know,
definitely.
where do you see, what does the future hold? I mean, you're in a healthy relationship.
Yeah.
You're working. Where's your future?
You know, I think the future for me definitely, man, it's hard to even tell, but I'd want to say career-wise, a better career, a well-rounded person. Yeah, I mean, continue to do what I do and continue to find passion. Hopefully, you know, obviously maybe one day get married, have a family, and just continue to love life.
Awesome. Dude, I'm proud of you, man.
Yeah.
I mean, you did it and you're doing it.
Yeah.
You know, what is there any final thing you want to say to everybody? What would I tell you what? Speak like you're speaking to your former self. First understanding that you needed some help. Talk to that young kid out there who's going through that. What would you say to him or her?
I would say, okay, I would say be open-minded. Be open-minded to everything in life, whether that's in recovery, out of recovery. Don't underestimate your abilities, know that you can accomplish anything you put your mind to. And you're a valued person.
Well said. Dude, thanks a lot for coming on here. I appreciate
Absolutely.
it.
I appreciate you having me.
All good. Another great episode of Ignite Euphoria. Check out other episodes of this podcast on our YouTube channel. And if you or a loved one are looking for help, give Racing for Recovery a call, 419-824-8462. Until next time, have a great sober day.